I've already narrated the topic, so I'll just quickly jump to the slide now. So we all know that parotid tumors are mainly benign, which are mainly treated with the surgery. The classical surgical technique which is used to treat these kind of tumors is superficial parotidectomy. But recently, more and more conservative techniques are being used, such as partial superficial parotidectomy and extracapsular dissection. So to just understand the terminology, this picture shows the classical superficial parotidectomy defect, in which we remove the superficial lobe of the parotid after identifying the facial nerve, main trunk and its branches, and we leave behind the deep lobe of parotid. In partial superficial parotidectomy, what we do, we identify the main trunk of the facial nerve and its branches, but we do not remove the whole of the superficial lobe. Instead, we take about a cuff of 0.5 to 1 centimeter all around the tumor. In extracapsular parotidectomy, what happens? We do not even expose the facial nerve main trunk. We just palpate the tumor digitally and we take a cuff of about few millimeters all around the tumor and we remove the tumor. Now coming to the study, the aim of the study was to compare the complications rates between extracapsular dissection and partial superficial parotidectomy for tumors which were actually benign and underwent surgeries. They had 6 outcome measures. One was postoperative transient or permanent facial nerve injuries, Fraze syndrome, infection, salivary fistula, psilocele, and recurrence. It was a systemic review and meta-analysis of the studies, which included studies which compared extracapsular dissection and partial superficial parotidectomy in patients who had surgery for benign tumors, studies which adequately described the technique and reported at least one of the above mentioned outcome measure. Patients who had parotid malignancies, case reports, or studies with inadequate follow-up were excluded from the analysis. So they included 7 studies, all of them were non-randomized. There was only one prospective study and rest 6 were retrospective studies. They included 1,641 patients, out of which 1,120 underwent extracapsular dissection and 521 were treated with partial superficial parotidectomy. This is the table which summarizes the results of the study. For these 6 outcome measures, we can see that there was statistically significant difference between the 2 groups for 2 outcomes. One was transient facial nerve injury and the other was Fraze syndrome. If you just focus on the forest plots in this slide, we can see that for the first 2 forest plots, the diamond is actually on the left side of the line of unity. That means the results of the study favored extracapsular dissection. That means the incidence of transient facial nerve injury and Fraze syndrome was lesser in the extracapsular dissection group as compared to the partial superficial parotidectomy group. While for rest of the parameters, the diamond is seen to be crossing or meeting the line of unity, so that the results were equal in both the groups statistically. So the authors concluded that extracapsular dissection would be safer than partial superficial parotidectomy for 2 outcomes, that is translocation of varices and Fraze syndrome, probably because of the lesser dissection and lesser tissue damage. However, the study had a lot of limitations and they admitted it. First of all, that it is not a high quality evidence. It's mainly based on retrospective studies. There was only one prospective. They admitted that surgeons had different level of surgical expertise. They followed different treatment protocols, and the 2 groups were quite dissimilar, which could have affected the outcome. Though they said that there was no significant heterogeneity, some non-significant few studies had less than 7 to 10 years of follow-up, which actually is desirable if you want to predict the long-term outcome. And lastly, they also did not include the cosmetic outcome, which is important from the point of extracapsular dissection. So to conclude, even though this meta-analysis provides best available evidence to choose between the 2 techniques, it has its own set of limitations. This systemic review did not consider the few factors in detail, such as expertise of the surgeon, requirement of nerve monitor, because some certain tumor characteristics like mobility of the gland, tumor inside the gland, location of the tumor, and the size of the tumor, which should be perfect for ECD. It should not be too large and it should not be too small. So whenever we decide the treatment modality, we need to look at all these factors to individualize our treatment. Thank you. So should I go on to the next presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the next presentation is elective neck dissection in adenoid cystic carcinoma of the head and neck. So as we all know, adenoid cystic carcinoma is a slow-growing tumor with a low incidence of lymphatic spread to the tune of 6 to 10%, mainly treated with surgery. Though the neck is offered to N-positive nodal disease, the management of N0 neck is debatable. Elective neck dissection is not routinely offered to all those patients. So the aim of the study was to recommend guidelines on clinically node-negative neck management in patients with advanced outcome measures to identify the rate of occult neck metastasis, to identify the level of lymph node involvement and survival outcome. It was a systemic review, though the authors tried to do meta-analysis, but they couldn't do it because of significant heterogeneity existing between the studies. So finally, they included studies which covered adenoid cystic carcinoma of the head neck region, which were mainly treated with surgery and were offered elective neck dissection. And then when they had significant data available to assess the occult node positivity rate. Tumors in which the adenoid cystic carcinoma was not separately, the studies in which the adenoid cystic carcinoma was not separately defined, or if they had unknown lymph node status, or where the details about the elective neck dissection rate was not mentioned, they excluded those studies. Similarly, adenoid cystic carcinoma has very low incidence of lymph node metastasis at certain sites at laryngeal, or when it is very rare, such as eccrimal gland, external auditory canal, they excluded all those studies. Apart from that, if the elective neck dissection was treated in less than 10 patients, then those studies were also excluded from the analysis. So finally, they included 18 studies, all were retrospective. They included 5,767 patients, out of which 2,450 patients underwent elective neck dissection. Overall rate of occult node metastasis varied between 0 to 43.7%, average being 13.9%. It was highest for oral cavity or oropharyngeal cancer, which varied between 21.5 to 31%, followed by major salivary gland primaries, which varied between 0 to 23.3%, and it was least for sinonasal malignancy, and the incidence was about 6.7 to 16.7%. Majority of these patients had N1 disease, and all neck metastases were confined to level 1 to 3. Only 5 of these 18 studies reported survival outcome. 4 reported no difference in overall survival and disease-specific survival between the END and non-END arm. Only 1 study reported extended overall survival for advanced stage adenoid cystic carcinoma of salivary gland. That too in the study, when they tried to see the survival advantage for early stage tumor, it was lost. They had, again, the study had major limitation of being only the retrospective study. So, and the patients were accrued at different time periods, which followed different management protocols. It was very heterogeneous population with respect to site, tumors, subtypes like cribriform, tubular, or in terms of solid subtype for the adenoid cystic. Then many of the studies lacked significant details on neck status. For example, some there was heterogeneity on labeling the neck as N0. Then there was information was lacking on distribution of the neck micrometastasis, rate of ENE, extent of dissection, then what happened, how the observation cohort was treated, whether the post-operative treatment was offered to how many patients, and all those details of radiation therapy were missing in many studies. So the authors concluded that elective neck dissection is questionable as a staging or therapeutic procedure. However, it may be considered in select N0 cases which are located in the sites which have high risk of lymph node metastasis, such as oral floor of mouth, tongue, base tongue, submandibular areas, or if you are dealing with advanced stage major salivary gland, tumors with lymphovascular invasion, or if you are dealing with the solid type of histopathology. They also concluded that if elective neck dissection is to be performed, it should be limited to only level 1 to 3 level 1 to 3 lymph node levels of the ipsilateral neck. They also offered alternative strategy of elective neck degradation. However, it was they did not have any data to back up this statement. They highly recommended a prospective trial to answer this question. So to conclude, at present level of evidence to give strong recommendation on how to manage the N0 neck in adenoid cystic carcinoma of head neck is low. Elective neck dissection may be considered with core of mouth down based on submandibular or advanced high-grade salivary gland tumor. Whenever performed, it should be a selective neck dissection encompassing level 1 to 3, and in many patients, neck can be observed. And we must individualize the treatment based on approach, site, histology, stage, and microfracture technique for reconstruction. Requirement for residual strap will also help in deciding our treatment. Thank you.